Awesome. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining the Innovation Special Interest Group of the Institute of Risk Management's session today. So for those of us who are sitting in the UK, it is 5:30 in the evening, and we promise that we will let everybody disappear off by 7 o'clock at the latest. So we'll be here for an hour and a half. I suspect that there are lots of you dialing in from different parts of the world, which hopefully have got slightly better weather than we currently have in the UK, where it's pouring with rain right now, which of course is a good thing. It's a good thing when it is raining. But if you can turn on your videos and you want to say hello to everybody, now is a good time to do it. If you'd like to remain incognito, then feel free to do that as well. But what we'll do is we'll go around and just say a quick hello to everybody, because this is a very chatty group when we get going. And whilst we've got quite a few people on the line today, that's all fine. But let's quickly do a little wrap around the world. So I saw, Tim, you turned on your video fairly quickly there, and you've got the most amazing bookshelf behind you. Tim Hess, do you want to say a little hello to everybody? Who are you and where are you dialing in from? And then we'll go to Elijah.
Hi, I'm from Sheffield, which is cloudy, but it's not raining, so it's still good weather. I'm a risk manager currently on a transport project in the north of England, working in on capital projects doing project risk and all of the advanced quantitative analysis and ongoing enterprise risk elements.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tim. It is lovely to meet you and good to have you with us. Excellent. Elijah, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then we'll go to Andrea.
So good morning, afternoon, evening all. My name is Elijah Inegbino. I'm a senior risk analyst. I work for Leiden Brazil on the owner side, working on the capital projects as well as turnarounds. So yeah, happy to meet you all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Elijah. Lovely to meet you too. Excellent. Andrea, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then we'll go to Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to check first if you can hear me.
Yep.
Hi,
Yep.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm the Director of Operational Resilience Risk at Visa, and I cover second line oversight of the implementation of the Operational Resilience Bank of England requirements.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andrea. Lovely to have you with us. That's great. Vanessa, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then we'll go to Martin.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Clark. I'm Head of Risk and Assurance at a children's charity and relatively new to sort of being Head of Risk sort of the last year and a half. So keen to get involved and understand and learn from everyone's experience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Vanessa. You've got plenty of people here who I'm sure will be very, very willing to tell you all of their passionate aspects with regards to risk management. Brilliant. Martin, do you want to say hello to everyone? And then we'll go to Mark Turner.
Hello, everyone. My name's Martin Johnson, for those who don't know me. I am a risk consultant and risk business partner for St James's Place. So that's within wealth management. I do all things operational risk and sort of all things strategic risk as well on the second line.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Martin. Lovely to see you as always. Brilliant. Mark Turner, do you want to say hello to everyone? And then we'll go to Mark Bolt.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Mark Turner. I'm a risk consultant designing risk management software for project delivery. I'm also a director of the Institute of Risk Management for the time being.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Brilliant. Master Bolt, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then I'll see if anybody else wants to say hello by turning on their videos. On you go, Mark.
Okay, I'm Mark Bolt. I'm going to just be introducing you today to a new guidance, which a few of us have written on risk and sustainability. I'll explain more later. My background has been risk since the 1980s. I think that'll do.
You look so young, Mark. You look so young.
It's unbelievable. I know.
Exactly. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mark. We're really looking forward to it. Brilliant. Olasumbo, brilliant. Do you want to unmute and come and say hello to all of us? And then we'll go to Emily.
Okay, my name is Olasumbo Shola Phillips. I'm from Leicester. I'm a postgraduate student at De Montfort University. I'm studying forensic accounting, and I took risk management as one of my courses. That's how I got to know about the Institute of Risk Management. We're actually in the office in the UK, in London, sorry. We're actually in the office in London. So that's how I took interest in risk management, and that's why I'm here this afternoon.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Olasumbu. It is fantastic to see you again. Brilliant. Emily, do you want to say hello to everybody? And if anybody else wants to say hello and they can't turn their camera on, then just either click the little reactions button at the bottom of the page, because that will give us an indication that you would like to say hello. Or down the bottom of the page, you'll see that there's a chat button. If you click on that, then somewhere over on the right-hand side of the page, there should be a white box that appears. If you want to say hello to everybody in that, I'll be able to get you to turn on your microphone so you can come and say hello. But Emily, do you want to say hello to everyone? And then, oh, excellent. Then we'll go to David.
Hi, I'm just Emily Moore from, I work for a life insurance company in the Isle of Man. It's sunny here. This is the first time I've joined one of these sessions, so just interested to hear what goes on.
Excellent. So are we. It's different every time, Emily. So brilliant. Thank you very much. And glad to hear that it is sunny somewhere. Fantastic. David, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then we'll go to Mike. Hello,
everybody. I'm David Waller. I am sitting in the distinctly wet Cambridgeshire Fens, where it helps if you have web feet. And I work for IRM, which is a semiconductor design company.
Excellent. Thank you very much, David. And sorry to hear it is wet with yourself as well, but that's glorious. Fantastic. Such is life. Mike, do you want to say hello to everyone? And then we'll go to Bolani.
Hi, all. Mike Wilkinson. I'm in rainy London as well. But yes, so I haven't actually managed to join one of these sessions for a couple of years or so, actually, but I did used to. I'm at a firm called Willis Towers Watson, and I kind of lead the risk and governance consulting that we do in the insurance and financial services sector.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. And don't worry, we haven't run one of these for ages. So if you feel like you've missed out on lots, we could lie and say you have, but in reality, we haven't actually run a session for a while. So it's lovely to see you. Fabulous. Bolani, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then we'll go to Shri.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I'm Bolani Johnson, and I am Head of Operational Risk for the First Line at a Wealth Manager. And I mean, this will be my second webinar that I will join with the group. So yeah, great to meet you all and see you again, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Bolani. Good to see you as well. Excellent. Shri, do you want to say hello to everybody? And then I'll give everyone one last chance. If you want to say a verbal hello, either turn on your video or say explicitly in the chat that you would like to say hello, and then I'll come to you. But Shri, over to yourself.
So hi, this is Dr. Sri Kalyana. I'm from India. I'm working as a faculty teaching risk management to students of engineering and management, and we do a lot of research on risk-related activities. And I basically come from civil engineering background, so I focus mostly on risk in construction sector. So this is my first meeting all of you. Good to see you all. Thrilled to be a part of this session in the next 1.5 hours or so.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Dr. Shri. It's lovely to meet you as well. Fabulous. Cool. So thanks to all of you who are saying hello in the chat, to Shane, Samantha, and everybody else. It's really good to hear from you as well. I will allow my co-chair and Catalin, who's our fabulous secretary for the group at the moment, to say hello to you as well. But just to reiterate, today's session is going to be super interactive. We've got some bits and pieces of information to share with you, but the purpose of today's session is really to take a bit of a step back and say, okay, from an innovation perspective, which of course is the purpose of this special interest group, from an innovation within risk management perspective, what do we think has been changing over the last year or so? And what do we think might be some of the big changes in the short-term horizon? And with regards to that, which of those changes or which of those innovations are we really interested to hear more about? Because what we're going to be doing is putting together the schedule of different talks, different focus areas that we'd like to look at over the next 12 months or so. And this is the session through which we can identify what is it that we want to look at. So whilst we're giving our little introductions from the organisation perspective, if you want to be having a think to yourselves, what do you think has been changing within risk management, or where do you think there might be some innovations on the horizon? But Rodrigo, I know that your internet has been a little bit dodgy over the last hour or so. Do you want to say a bit of a hello to everybody and explain who you are?
Sure, it's great to have a very diverse group again in our innovation SIG. I'm the co-chair of the innovation SIG with Sarah. We count with the huge support of Catalan. And yeah, we tend to meet every 2 months. It hasn't happened for a while. So there is a lot to cover today. I hope that we'll be able to take the most of this meeting together, and it will be great to hear your inputs. Thank you. And by the way, since my internet is not good, I'll need to be switching from video and audio, otherwise you'll not hear me. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. We shall channel your thoughts and make sure that your voice is heard as and when is possible. But brilliant. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Catalin, do you want to say hello to everybody as well?
Yes, just hello, everybody. So I'm secretary of the Innovation SIG, and I work in enterprise risk management for an academic publisher. I have done enterprise risk management also in the retail industry for several years. So glad to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Catalin. Awesome as always. Brilliant. And my name, everyone, is Dr. Sarah Gordon. So I'm originally a geologist, but I thought that wasn't boring enough. And so then I went into risk management. No, I'm only joking. That's hugely sarcastic. Of course, as we know, risk management is where it's at. I know and recognize quite a few of you because I deliver quite a few of the Institute of Risk Management training courses. So especially for the last couple of years over Zoom, there have been many a session where I have been waving my arms at some of you on the other end of video cameras. So it's really good to see a lot of you again, and hopefully you will enjoy today's session. So with regards to that, and I'm going to put it into the chat now because otherwise I will forget, but Catalin will remember at the end, I'm sure as well. There is a little survey that the IRM has asked that we fill in at the end of today's session, just saying, hey, did you get anything out of it? And so in case we all forget, I've put it into the chat. And if you think that anything is boring during today's session, then feel free to fill it in then. We might not get the best results, but hey, at least we've managed to send it out so people can fill in the data. As you've seen, we're using Zoom, so all the buttons that you need are generally at the bottom of your screen, unless you're dialing in on a phone or an iPad, and then they're going to be somewhere slightly different. If for any reason somebody is naughty or Zoom bombs us or something like that, what we'll be doing is we'll be killing the meeting. We'll make it very, very clear that we're going to stop the meeting, and then we'll attempt to send out new details to all of you. If that doesn't happen, then take a look at the website. We'll manage to get something up on there. But just to show that we're true risk managers, there is a backup plan in case things get very exciting and we get Zoom bombed. One day it's going to happen. It's going to happen one day. I'm sure for these sessions it will happen. Brilliant. So with regards to that, as Rodrigo's already mentioned, we haven't done one of these sessions for a little while, and that's because we've all been so busy writing documents and chapters and papers and all manner of things, mostly at the moment in the area of sustainability or ESG or all of those different aspects of risk management that are becoming so pertinent at the moment. I don't think you can have failed to have noticed, if it is part of your role description, that risk management is one of those key aspects of anything to do with climate change reporting, for example. So all of the new regulations, no matter where you are in the world, they all put risk management right in the middle of them, which is awesome because it means that we get to be right in the middle of a lot of these discussions and also get people to really talk about those potential threats and opportunities. So we're not just talking about the potential bad stuff that might happen. We're also looking at the potential good stuff in that area of sustainability, which can be quite weird and wonderful, because there are lots of different types of risk management that become clashing together within that world of sustainability. So what we're going to start off today by talking about are some of those key updates. And one of those updates, or one of those documents that has been published very recently, was led by Mark Bolt. And so Mark, if you want to start sharing that screen, all will be revealed as to what this document is, and I have a sneaking suspicion there is going to be a QR code and a free download if people want to see it. He's finding the buttons. There it is. Beautiful.
Okay. And
so Mark, I will hand over to you if you want to explain what it is that the BSI have put together and where we can go and find it.
Okay, first of all, can I check, can everybody see the whole screen?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Can you actually see the, is the bottom hidden, or can you see the actual web address?
We cannot see the web address, no, but we could probably put it into the chat in a wee bit if you like.
Right, okay, now you can
Oh,
see
we can now.
on this one. It's just that one isn't quite so next. Okay, fine. You are all allowed to take out your mobile phones now. Take your picture of the screen, download the document, or you can just simply take the web address, which is https://simplebooklet.com/risk sustainability 2023. And so these, I had a massive amount of warning from Sarah about this, as in I picked up an email at about 4 o'clock saying, please, would I talk on this? So I'm going to do the best I can. And to make it a little bit more interactive, has everybody downloaded? Anybody still trying to download? I'll put the screen back up. I'm going to start off by getting you all to do a Mentimeter, just to make it more interesting, because I haven't tried this one before. Can you all try going to joinmenti.com and this number here? That's again, you're allowed to use your mobile phones again or do it on the computer. What I don't know is whether you can read the text, because this is something which was put together rather too quickly. You're all looking like you're getting in there. Now, hopefully what I will see is as you join, I should be able to see that you've joined. You've got in?
Not yet.
My end isn't telling me anybody's got in yet, so that's not quite so useful.
So I'm in, Mark. I think some of us are coming in now. If anybody's struggling, I've gone and put the link to Menti into the chat, and I'll also type in the code so that it might be a bit larger for you as well.
And we've got people answering the first question. Brilliant. That's excellent. So we've got 3 answers out of 25 of you, so that's a good start. Actually, subtract that off, 24. I won't include myself. So we've got 14 answers.
If you can't get into Menti, then feel free to write what you think the answer is into chat, and then Mark, we can artificially aggregate the databases.
No, this is great at the moment. That's good. It just is to try and get us to start to think about why it is sometimes our sustainability programs go. And as I've never done this survey like this before, it is totally new data to me, so that's good. But what I can see is integrating in how we work, struggling to make sustainability part of our normal ways of working is one of the difficult bits. None. There are no roadblocks. We believe we have a comprehensive strategy. Well, 5 people can share their experiences here. With the next most popular being not a priority, and another one being short-termism being things, and some people thinking of it as irrelevant because we're too small, which is an interesting statement, and standing in the headlights, don't know where to start. So, but at least some of those are showing that if you look at the 12 and the 1, that there are some sort of roadblocks which are, you could say, in the way. What was produced, let's see if I can go back to the PowerPoint slide. What we did was we produced these 3 documents, of which one is available through the QR code, which is the full guidance. It was done over about 2 years by discussing with people who were working in business, sustainability, risk management, what people were finding difficult in terms of looking at sort of risk and sustainability and getting them to work together in simple terms. And then out of that, using again experts to pull together thoughts and ideas and propose and what they have done from their experience to overcome those challenges. So the document is seeking to be a guidance document to help you in, you could say, implementing sustainability and thinking about sustainability risks. But it's very much a risk management document. So it's very much about sort of the sustainability risk management, but it's a total recognition that the whole of the risk process effectively gives you a process, if you wish to follow for doing sustainability as well. So that's probably a simple thing. I mean, you could start off by saying, where does the document start on sustainability? Sustainability is big. You can go on the internet and you'll get put in the word sustainability, and Google will give you 2 billion entries on sustainability and another 500 million on ESG and so on. And so what was the view we took? Well, we took the broad, what I'd call the broad view, and effectively said sustainability is what you could encompass within the, you could say the UN SDGs. You can put into the ESG into that, you can put CSAR, it's all of it put together. It is all the stuff to do with the social side of things and the environmental side of things and the governance of those. The guidance itself has sought to avoid using acronyms. I know you all know what ESG is and CSR is here, but that doesn't mean everybody does. Environmental, social governance and social corporate social responsibility were the two, just so for those who didn't quite get it. But we've sought to avoid the jargon, we've sought to use non-technical language, and we've sought to write something which gives a lot of ideas to people on how to go ahead, whether they be a small organization or a large. You could say some of the background thinking to this is thinking, first of all, is whether can you do everything just like you do risk today? Or what are the differences when you talk about sustainability? So we did do some thinking about the nature of sustainability and sustainability risks. And there were some things which sort of came out of that. Sometimes we find things come up unexpectedly in terms of sustainability issues. If you want to think back to ozone layer, and think about what happened there. It wasn't something we all had on our radar for a long time until somebody said, oh, there's a hole in the ozone layer. It is something the world did come together on to solve very quickly, but it was therefore a sort of risk that materialized, you could say, without anybody expecting it. And then the feeling is that actually in the world of sustainability, that can happen. It's often quite difficult to quantify. Things can be intangible. If we're talking about sort of things to do with child education, actually how much you do something that will influence positively or negatively child education is not easy to quantify. Similarly, you could argue if you're emitting carbon, you can measure how much carbon, but actually its impact is not easy to quantify. So that's another aspect that comes in, which has to be thought about in the guidance. There are other things like we might contribute small amounts of stuff, but actually the risk is going to materialize because everybody is doing it. And that's the classic carbon issue we've got at the moment, where, you know, you might say, oh, but my footprint is minute. But everybody's footprint is minute. There's billions of us in the world. And we all have to take action if we're going to stop any massive impacts. But that makes it very difficult. I think some of the points that some people who chose, like, you know, it's not seen as important or I'm too small, actually, it's probably not the case. We all need to do our part. And yes, it might be small, but actually part of it is the messages that we all need to think it through and do something. And the other thing or the other two things I suppose we came up. One is that sustainability risks are often systemic, which means that when we have historically done risks and we've thought about the risk, say on a chemical plant or in a financial transaction, you're doing very much a sort of, you know, a risk assessment of an asset or an activity, and you can be very specific. But actually, there are things that can happen with sustainability risks where you get knock-on. Use up the water in an area, hey presto, the social people can't live there, quality of life goes down, you suddenly find there's migration, and the whole thing's all linked together. And you can see that in a way in some of the stuff from Davos and so on, where they've done their risk reports. So those were some of the things we had as sort of, you could say, challenges, along with a sort of ethical element, you could say, behind a lot of sustainability, which is different from perhaps from the way businesses were run in the past. So the thought process is that sustainability is changing you from not how much money do you make, but how do you make your money, as a change in question. So that's the sort of background bit. We also can see that in terms of the nature of the way we need to think about things, we need to take a much longer term view. And that gives me sort of probably one of my other quiz questions I've got in a minute for you, just to see what you're thinking. But the concept is that sustainability issues go a long time into the future. So in thinking within the guidance, how do we advise people to think about looking into the long term, and what are the implications of doing that under risk management? It's not like I can go along and say, oh, my chemical plant has a problem, let me put in a gas detector and some shutdown valves and I've solved it. Sustainability is not like that. It's, you look at it and you might go, oh, I can't do much now, perhaps I could just tweak it here, but actually I need to go and do a lot more investment over a period of time to perhaps change even the technologies I use that are part of my business. And when you change the technologies, there can be implications you do not foresee. We've gone to a paperless environment so that we don't use up paper. Don't ask me how much energy all of those buildings with loads of computers are using up, because they're estimating at about 1% to 2% of annual electricity energy is going into storing all of the documents, data, and everything that's going on the internet. So you can sort of see it's not as simple as always say you change one to the other. So the guidance, it has been set up, it effectively shows you how you can use risk management or parts of risk management to help enable leverage it into sustainability management. It looks at the challenges, which I'll go through in a minute, and to make it practical, it has reality check questions. So when you should have all downloaded by now, I think. So what you will find, hopefully if you downloaded, you got to something like this. Brilliant. I can see a thumbs up there. You'll go through here. Now it's a one-page view, so you can read it on your phone. That's the reason you don't get a two-sided view. But you can get through the whole document. And what I'll try and do, if I can, is get to a page where you can see when we get into that's the nature of it we just sort of talked through. You'll see there are bits where there are reality check questions. So to try and make it practical so that it helps you, we've gone through, sort of explained one of the challenges effectively. We've talked through some ways of addressing it. And then we've given you a number of questions that you can ask of yourselves to say, are we going to be tackling, are we tackling sustainability? Are we setting ourselves up right to do it? And then answering those questions, you can decide what you need to do to be able to do things better. And I think probably the easiest way is for me to quickly say some of the topics which are in there. The first one links into we're stuck in the headlights, we don't know where to go, etc. It starts off by saying actually you need to set your direction. It talks about so the whole organization's visions and values and how you perhaps have to rethink that. So if you took something like a train company or underground railway or whatever, if they were just saying their job was our purpose is to drive trains, then they'll drive as many trains as possible. If they say their purpose is to get people home safely, which is a bit more of a corporate social responsibility or a sustainability sort of view of the world, then your mindset changes onto what you're doing. And the idea is what it's trying to do is to get you thinking about, have we actually set ourselves up with objectives which encompass the idea of sustainability? So that's one bit of it. It goes into discussing what you should do when you're looking at the context. Now, both sustainability and risk management and sustainability risk thinking needs you to think about the context. It is saying you do need to take a holistic view. You can hear that in the news where they're talking about reporting nowadays and saying everybody's going to be reporting on carbon, and they're talking about scopes 1, 2, and 3, which means you take a holistic view. So you need to think about supply chain operations and your products and services. And you can see people who've been hit by problems in their supply chain, damaging their reputation from a sustainability point of view. Example from Cadbury's in the booklet. And pushes you towards sort of some things like, you know, engaging with stakeholders, materiality assessments, and things you probably are used to. Even double materiality, for those who like double materiality, is a sensible way of looking at it. It talks about identification of risk and the importance where some people have done things like scenario planning before, but perhaps to a much greater extent. If you're going to take a long-term view, you have to be looking into the future and thinking about horizon scanning and looking at it for both opportunities and threats, not just how do I manage the negative. We're going to need to change, so the opportunities are going to take you ahead. It comes into decision making and talks about that to a degree, looking at how can you, getting you to try and think about how can you balance different types of risk. If I've got two options and one is great for climate change and the other one is great for perhaps social sort of child education or whatever it is, and one of those is bad for water and the other one is bad for doesn't really matter. The whole thing is that you've got to balance the sort of the water, the climate change, and the good for child education, or and say to yourself, how do I balance those and put them all together? So it gives some thoughts about how you can do that in a qualitative and quantitative manner. But again, it's trying to get you to start to put those ideas together for yourselves. You may have your own tools and techniques for these, so it's not saying you shouldn't use those. It's trying to say these are some of the ideas you can use. And then it does quite a lot to try and get you to think about the long term, and explains that you don't just have a risk action, leave it, risk action, implement the action puts in a new control, hey presto, we're all okay. It says, no, sometimes you're going to have to say, I've got a risk, I put in an action to put a control on it for the short term, but I have to then put in work to change things for the future. So it's trying to encourage people to realize that actually, even in risk management, we're going to have to look at trying to drive, you could say, investment and research to try and overcome problems we don't necessarily know the solutions for today. And then the last part is a bit talking about greenwashing, which everybody knows nowadays. You can see it in the latest Shell adverts have been taken off air thanks to greenwashing. You can debate whether you believe them or not. They don't think it's fair. But the point is that actually, even if you don't think it's fair and you're accused of greenwashing, it's bad for your reputation. And you know, if you get things right on sustainability communications and looking at it as an upside opportunity, it will help you with getting finance. It will help your reputation. That will help recruitment. Nowadays, a lot of people don't want to work for unethical organizations. It can help sales, etc. So it's worth thinking about. Again, we've tried to put some stories in to give an idea of some of the dangers and the positives you can get out of it. So there's some case studies in the document. And the guidance in terms of greenwashing talks about the governance of the whole, you could say, what you're communicating, transparency, data quality, due diligence, the likes of assurance and verification, and the benefits of those should they be right for you. And that probably gives me a really high level, gives you a high level overview of what's in the document. There are three versions. Only one I think is on the internet so far, which is the full guidance, which is 55 pages. There is a short summary 2-page, and there is a 7-page version, which is sort of an executive report version. And I would encourage you all to read it, share it. and get back and tell us how good or bad it is in your own minds, because we want it to create a debate, and we don't see it as a perfect document. We see it as something which gives a good starting point. We see it as something that people can use to get going fast, because a lot of the other things that are out there are just saying, here's the problem. We're trying to say, no, start to look at here's how you deal with it. But we do also recognise that things evolve very quickly in this field. So the debate and better ways of working are things we would really like to hear about. And I'll shut up now. Did I talk too long?
No, that was brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Mark. Absolutely brilliant. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Mark, for giving us that fantastic overview of the new BSI document, as you can see, which is freely available for all of us to be able to download and to have a look at. Mark, you say that this document is there to try and spark the debate. If we set up a debate within the innovation group, would that be helpful to you?
Yes, I'd love you all to read and then have a debate. No, yes, yeah, no, it'd be good. Yeah, no, very happy to do something where we go through some of the questions and ask people about, and go through sort of the topics and the challenges around all of this. And then that might bring up things which we haven't addressed, because when we were developing it, it didn't come up as a question, but it may also bring up some really better ideas of ways of doing things, which it's useful to share and for us to pull together, such that in, I don't know, a year or two's time, we have perhaps an update of the document, or an annex to the document, or whatever that supplements what's there. So I think the answer is that would be great. I'm very happy for you to think about that as one of your ideas. And also some of the challenges here, maybe also other things to think about, like what's the best way to look a long time into the future when you're within a risk world, would be another sort of thing to think about. Yes, we can use scenario planning, but when I asked the financial people about it, they informed me that they often use the same scenario.
Yeah.
And then they use the same scenario again, and then they use the same one after that. And their risk doesn't move too much of it, but it's not necessarily that the world is the same in the future. We don't know what the future's like. So I think we need to think a lot about that.
Brilliant. So does anybody have any questions for Mark on this document, or is it something where we all want to go away, have a quiet read by ourselves? Any questions? If you've got a question, wave at me now. We'll pop it into the chat.
I can see.
I was going to say, I think it might be quite interesting if, when we do bring this back and debate it, if we don't just bring ourselves, but potentially bring someone who works specifically on ESG in our businesses. So we have that in the room and the risk in the room, and it's a joint approach.
Yeah.
Can I ask, how closely aligned is the working for yourself, Martin, of risk and sustainability, or are they two silos which don't talk together too much?
We work very closely together. ESG is sort of integrated into a lot of the way that the business works. So, for example, our minimum standards for procurement and onboarding of suppliers, ESG red lines are built into those to make sure that we're able to sort of do that. So it's active, ongoing sort of discussions all the time when we work as sort of very integrated.
Okay, that's nice to hear. That's good to hear.
I think that's a genius idea, Martin, bringing in the ESG or the sustainability teams or whoever's writing the climate change disclosure, like all of that kind of world. What does everybody think? If we set up a bit of a, I don't know, sustainability risk management, the debate, and run it as a little bit of a kind of just an online free to access session, is that something people would be interested in? Yeah, I'm getting some nods. If you think it's a good idea, say yes in chat. If you think it's a terrible idea, Also tell us, because then we won't bother doing it if it's a terrible idea. Okay, I think Catalin and Rodrigo, we've got another event sorted, judging by that. Because the other thing as well with this topic, and of course, I mean, it's something that as a special interest group, we've been thinking about, what, for the last 2 years, something like that. We've gently been taking a proper look at sustainability. We started off in the world of resilience. And then very naturally, of course, we then actually did a little foray into the world of digital risk management, etc., and technology. And then we came out into the world of sustainability, and quite a lot has changed, obviously, in the last few years. So we've got these 3 fabulous documents. I think you've done really well there, Mark, getting 3 documents out of the one. That's glorious. So we've got the 3 fantastic documents that's been put together. But also, I'm sure many of you will have seen the recent document published by COSO that applies COSO to sustainability risk management. And there's some really nice stuff in there. So they very much align to how a lot of people on this call are already doing risk management, but it's nice seeing one of the big international standards taking, or again, coming across from the other side of the Atlantic, really taking on board sustainability. If you haven't seen the COSO update, then let me know in the chat, and we'll try and make sure we can find the link for you. I seem to have just a copy of it rather than the online link to it, but I'm sure we can find it. It's freely available for everyone. Also, there's an update to a book, and Catalin, remind me of the name of the book again. It's David Hilson's Handbook on Risk Management. So volume or version, well, edition 2, there we go, is coming out in the next couple of months. And within that, there's a whole variety of new chapters, but it includes a chapter on sustainability risk management. Don't judge it too harshly, because I wrote it. So my sincere apologies if I've missed out various different aspects there. But so there we've got another piece of literature really from the risk management world that's going to be published in the next month or so. And then finally, anyone here who has just completed their IRM certificate, firstly, congratulations on getting through those exams. You are truly wonderful and glorious and deserve a massive round of applause. Fantastic, because you're the first cohort to go through the fully updated IRM certificate. One of the brand new bits that went in there into module 2, which of course is the practical bit of risk management, is an entire unit on sustainability risk management, which is great. So it's really coming into the fold as something that is a must-have skill set for all of us as risk managers. So those of you who haven't seen COSO, don't worry, we'll get it through to you, because it's quite a long document, but it's well worth the read. And what perhaps I suggest you do is have a look at it, but then also, of course, read the document that Mark's just taken us through here as well, because that gives you a slightly different flavour with regards to this. And as far as I remember, the COSO document doesn't have the sense check questions. So it's been written for a slightly different purpose compared to Mark's document. Mark, are there any other papers that you're aware of that, or books or chapters or anything from the sort of sustainability space that have been published recently?
I think when the call we had with you, actually, there was an announcement of a new reporting stuff coming out, and we have in the document put at the back of it a list of references that we have used, but I accept those references go out of date probably about 6 months before you print the document. But there was the new, I was about to say ISSB, but it probably comes under a different acronym, all these acronyms on reporting that's come out, if I remember right. I did.
Yes, so with this, the good news is, and again, yes, there's an alphabet soup that begins to appear in this world of sustainability. So the International Sustainability Standards Board, ISSB, they were basically put together back in 2021 during COP26, which was held in Glasgow, and they have released the what they're doing in terms of pushing everything forwards, in terms of how they look at sustainability, bringing together a whole load of the different standards. The good news is that risk management is at its heart. The other piece of good news is that TCFD, so the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, which all large UK companies have had to disclose on for the last little while already, part of the ISSB and also SASB, which are the American standards, they say, okay, yeah, we're basically going to use TCFD for all the climate stuff, which is great. And then we're using that in part as a central opinion with regards to broader sustainability management as well, which is really cool. With that, what we're going to do is, I think, and again, I'm just making executive decisions here because Rodrigo's internet is having a wobble. Rodrigo and Kathleen, are we okay to suggest we run a little event, calling it the Sustainability Debates or something like that? Does anybody want to help us run it? This is how we roll with the Innovation SIG. Martin's put his hand up. Excellent. Thank you, Martin. If anybody is interested in helping us put together this event, I'll stick my email address into the chat. Feel free to send me an email and then we can form a little subcommittee and we'll put that together and we'll make this event happen fairly shortly. I think actually it would be very easy to pull this together and then just run it online on Zoom. And I think, Martin, exactly as you said, bring in our ESG or sustainability teams to work with us on it. Because of course, being risk managers, we don't actually manage any of the risks. We just cajole and manipulate other people to do it, which is genius. The other people who might be interested to join, thank you, Andrea. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. I'm in a very sarcastic mood tonight. My apologies, everybody. But the other people who might be good to bring in are the financial people who are doing like the TCFD reporting. So where we come into the financial materiality of climate change, that seems to be a really kind of niggly area. Because especially, I think, Mark, as you were saying, when we're trying to push out into the true time horizons that we really need to be thinking about in sustainability, we're talking way beyond what is normally considered from a financial perspective with regards to, say, even just the scenarios themselves. So I think that would be really interesting, maybe if we ran a little session on the time horizons or looking at the financial materiality or something like that. That would be interesting to bring those together. What do you think, Mark?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
And the people who are doing TCFD, I think they were saying when I spoke to some people that the whole reporting is evolving in terms of what you report and exactly what's required and how. It's not staying still. So I think the requirements are going up now that have been clarified. Now they've gone up. But I'm not an expert on TCFD. There's going to be others who are much better on that. Do you want me to do the other quiz questions? As this is
yeah, go for it. Go for it. And then I've got some more quiz questions for people, but you go for it, Mark.
So I'm allowed to share my screen again.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so here we go. I've got a couple more to share. There's on the same Menti that you will hopefully are all on. There is a question. The next question is to ask, where in your organization, hopefully it's is it sharing correctly now?
Not yet, I don't think, Mark.
Have I? Or it says stop sharing on my screen, so it should be. Maybe it's sharing the wrong thing. Let me just try again. I will stop and restart. Share. Share. Is that okay? It's come up again. It's told me I'm sharing.
Yep, so you're sharing the screen. I think in terms of the question, we're not moved on.
You're not there yet. No, you need to go to the next question. That's okay. As long as you've got the screen, that's the next bit. And I need to go to the next question. It should be a page down. We'll see. There. Right, question comes up, which is, where is sustainability located in your organization? Does it basically report to the CEO? Does it report to the financial person? Does it report to the head of marketing, or does it report to something like the head of the legal or sort of regulatory type area? Interestingly, a lot of reporting to other. Which probably means I need to find out what the others are going to be. But those who did other, Can you put down where it reports into in the chat? But it is good to see a significant portion saying that they are reporting, it's reporting into the the CEO.
So Mark, you've got, so David says that they report into the Chief People Officer.
Okay, HR.
Depending on how you want to brand it.
Yes.
Samantha says that hers is in estates as part of the Chief Operating Officer area. I think, is that correct, Samantha? I'm going to take this. Yeah, it is. Cool. If anybody else's reports in somewhere different, then let us know in the chat. But Darren, do you want to come off mute, because you've put a great comment into the chat where you've said, hang on, is not all of this just a complex systems challenge to be supported by appropriate risk management? I may have missold what you're saying there, but do you, if you can, do you want to come off mute and add to your comment? Because I think a lot of us have started nodding as we've read it.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to use the word spaghetti soup, but but it's all interlinked, because you know, even when you mentioned about in a jokey way, you in the risk function, but you should pull in finance, you should pull in ESG. I don't make that delineation anymore. I think the competence should be with all, because it's all interlinked. And my challenge to myself in relation to risk management is the days of being a siloed function just doing risk management has to be challenged now, because it has to provide that value to whatever. So I'm testing myself constantly. Mark knows this, that is even the tools and techniques what have been established with risk management, are they actually fit for purpose today and tomorrow, with it being a complex systems challenge? If it is, that was my little challenge, in terms of not to we've got to bring it all together. And even like the ESG and TCFD and all the different standards, when you look at all of them, they all boil it down to, you've got to do something, and how we're going to go about doing it and managing it in a credible way and at pace.
Yeah, I think that's a nice summary, if you don't mind me saying, of some of the challenges. And siloed people not working together is a problem, and an awful lot of what you need, whether it be for sustainability or just what I call straight sustainability or versus risk, are very similar, or even for strategies and so on. So I think you need to get people to work together. I think it's a very good statement. And the risk functions and sustainability functions don't own the risks. They're always owned somewhere else. So I think it's a nice statement.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Darren. I think that's, I think, again, we all certainly agree with what you're saying there. I can see in the chat, by the way, Mark, so Martin has said that there's reports into, so the responsible business team reporting to corporate affairs board member. And so again, I guess there's some jargon in there, isn't there, Martin, in terms of where it's going. Mark reports to himself, which I think is glorious. Ross Murray says that reports into the Chief Operating Officer again. And then Vanessa, do you want to maybe just articulate what happens within the charity?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't turn my video on. We've not got budget yet, or not convinced anyone yet that we should have budget for a full-time role for sustainability. So we've got sort of a rather interesting sort of voluntary setup around all our sustainability work, which is we have a staff network for people who are interested in kind of sustainability and environment, and they sort of drive and push us to be a bit better. but then it means that the actual work in terms of developing sort of a sustainability strategy and environmental policy and that kind of thing sort of falls a bit between chairs, and we've got sort of some work where the estates team, the procurement team, our director of strategy all kind of chip in a bit, but I have to say it's really slow progress because it's no one's BAU role. So it's definitely a challenge to get momentum, I think, with sustainability. We do have then some stats that go in our annual report. I'm not actually sure where they come from, given, like I say, it's no one's role. I think it might come from our impact team. But there's definitely a sort of a vague willingness and kind of interest in sustainability and awareness that we need to do something on the risk, but not much resource behind it.
Okay. And I don't think that's an unusual story, is it, Mark, in terms of how people are evolving at the moment?
I think it's a quite interesting one, because I think that sometimes there is not connectivity between the person who's reporting in the way and the people who are setting out what you're trying to achieve. And actually, you do need to set down your promises, what you're going to deliver, or whatever word you want to use, and you need to demonstrate you're delivering them. Whereas if all you're doing is saying, we've measured our carbon this year, and we've measured it the previous year, and we measured it the year before that, and here are the three numbers, that's not necessarily going to get you there. It may be they're improving, but you would, in terms of reducing carbon, say, but actually saying, no, we want to be carbon neutral by, is the sort of classic carbon one anyway. That's the way to go. And then saying that's for not just us, our operations, it's for our extended enterprise. Because some people just outsource the whole lot and then say they've got no carbon, and in fact they have got the whole lot.
Yeah, we had an interesting policy previously where we had this document that said, this is our goal to be carbon neutral by, or carbon zero, or whatever it was, by net zero by a set date. And a group of us looked at it and we went, well, but do we have any strategy for how we're going to achieve that? No. And it was something someone had written down at some point, because someone had asked us if we had a policy and we didn't have one. So someone wrote something that they thought sort of covered the things that whoever wanted the policy wanted to hear. But I think we're now sort of, it feels a little bit, I think, like we're going backwards, because we're sort of taking the policy that we have and sort of rubbing it out and starting again, but I think with a much better, sort of more sustainable sort of and realistic intention of actually, well, we need a policy and a strategy that we've actually considered and thought through and thought about, well, how can we achieve it and how will we measure it? So we're sort of redirecting, I think, some previously well-intentioned but not necessarily rationalized work.
Okay, that sounds good. It's good. But I think, yeah, things are evolving, which is definitely the case. Yes. I can do two more Menti questions if you wish, so I can drop off now and go on to mute, whichever you prefer.
I think what would be awesome is maybe save them for our little debate conference thingy that we're going to put together, if that's okay, Mark. Because we did promise in the agenda that we'd also talk about some other areas of innovation and change that people are seeing at the moment. Is that okay?
I'm absolutely perfect. I'm shutting up and letting you keep going now. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Fabulous. Another round of applause for Mark Bolt, please, everybody. Excellent. Fabulous. Cool. So yes, as you'll have seen in the agenda, of course, it's not just the world of sustainability where we're seeing huge innovation really coming to the fore at the moment with regards to the role of risk management and how risk management can really deliver true change and meaningful impact, which is always awesome. Of course, some of the other areas where we've seen lots of change has been in that little area of artificial intelligence. Now, those of you who have been dialing into the Innovation Special Interest Group meetings for a little while will remember that a couple of years ago, or in September 2021, so we were in the depths of that thing called COVID. And I know that COVID hasn't gone away or anything like that, but we were well and truly in the depths of COVID. And this was when we ran this little conference. So this was online, and as you can see, we had 2 main working sessions, and we had a little workshop in the middle of it. And this was looking at, okay, so how do we get computers to do the grunt work, the role of AI versus human intelligence? Are we getting any better at predicting the future? All the way through into embracing our humanity. What does technology free humans to actually do? Now, with this, I will stick the link to this website, which is still live, into the chat. For some reason, it has fallen off the IRM website. At least I can't find it anywhere. So I'll stick it into the chat, and we'll see if we can make sure it's captured in today's meeting minutes. But if you go into the abstracts and the agenda page, what you'll see here are actually all of the recordings from each of the different sessions that took place. And so I suggest that you go and have a little look at some of those. And if nothing else, go and take a look at Mark Turner and Jane Waldy's little skit that they did. Yes, Mark, it still goes down as one of the best conference talks, I think, that we have ever experienced. So thank you very much for that. So the reason why I've brought this to all of our attention is because, of course, the world of AI has been changing a little bit recently. And I'm pretty sure that most of our risk registers, risk reports, risk profiles, whatever it might be, that we're discussing all the way through our organizations is including something to do with what are the potential threats and opportunities being posed by the changes in AI or perceptions of AI, etc. I don't know if anybody has any specific aspects that they would like to share with us, or, I mean, Mark, maybe if you want to share something, even if it is just your recollection of that amazing talk that you gave a few years ago. So AI, is this something that is on everybody's agenda at the moment, or is it been and gone and we don't care about it anymore? Mark, what do you reckon? And this is Mark Turner rather than putting poor Mark Bolt on the spot again.
Poor Mark Bolt. But the one thing I'd like to bring people's attention to was the document which I helped to edit and publish under the IRM, which was the practical guidance for ethical digital. I can't remember the exact name. I'll put a link into it. But it's about, do we understand the transparency of the data we're working with, the clarity, the veracity, those types of things? And when it comes to the black boxes which we're employing for these potential artificial intelligences, are we clear in understanding what is the outputs that we're getting, and do we recognize and realize the processes by which the decisions are, well, not so much the decisions, but the transformation of the data into the information that's coming out. Thank you, Sarah. I can see that's posted. So, you know, that for me was quite a significant piece of work, which I've read it just the other day in the face of the ChatGPT-4 coming online. And I still think it's got some validity, even in the new sort of paradigm which we're seeing with these large language models. With that aside, I think one of the key things that I'd like to sort of bring to the fore is the idea that we can start utilising these types of technologies better as risk professionals to better understand some of the exposures we've got. It all comes down to what's called prompt engineering. And for those who are not familiar with the concept of prompt engineering, I'd strongly recommend that you take a look into one of the many online courses that's come about with it. But essentially, prompt engineering talks about how do you craft a natural language sentence to get good responses from these large language models. And I've been using this to some real output in recent weeks with with creating both output with regards to risk management, but also output with regards to virtually anything I want it to do. I've got it doing writing computer programs for me. So I've been writing computer programs that help me to write better risk registers. It's fundamentally changing the way that people can use technology, and I'm a great fan of it. But at the same time, there's a little alarm in the back of my mind that says, how fast are we developing these things, and are they going to converge with some of these other technologies in the world, such as quantum computing and some of the biological sciences, which are the biotech sciences? We need to be very cautious as risk professionals that we don't just get run away with the train of sort of enthusiasm for these artificial intelligences, simply because in the right hands they're amazing, but in the wrong hands they could be quite devastating. I'll start up there.
No, absolutely, Mark. And actually, when I was just trying to search for the link to the digital ethics paper, and which is now in the chat, I also found a link to another paper that I was totally oblivious of until just now, but it must have been written within the last year or so, because 3 or 4 of our colleagues from within the IRM, so Sean, Alex and Miriam, have got together with ChatGPT and written a paper on friend or foe, the rise of artificial intelligence, the impact on risk managers. Now, open this paper at your peril, because you never know, there might be some little gremlins that then steal all of your brain cells and your thoughts and suck them into ChatGPT. But no, of course not. So take a look at that, because there's also information going on within the IRM at the moment looking at AI. And then, of course, as Mark's saying, how can you use AI to really support you with different aspects of risk management? I don't know if anyone here who's involved in the friend or foe paper. If you were, or ChatGPT, if you're there and you want to speak up, because I know that you have a voice depending on which functionality you enable. If anybody wants to chip in on that. If not, of course, the world of AI is something that a number of the different special interest groups are looking at the moment. It is by no means something that we either need to lean into or not here within the Innovation SIG. It's something that we certainly took a look at a few years ago, but of course, with the escalation in terms of how quickly things are changing at the moment, it's always one of those key areas that people mention when they think about innovation and, of course, advances with regards to these different areas. So was anybody here involved in the friend or foe paper? Or are we safe? Okay, excellent. If we find any more information with regards to this, we'll send it through to you. Otherwise, of course, we'll feed tonight's recording into ChatGPT and see what it spits out. Don't worry, we're not going to do that. Tonight's recording is not going to go anywhere near it, although it might do in the future. Okay, so in the last little section of today's meeting, what we'd like to do is utilize yet another piece of software. So you've already played with Mentimeter tonight. We've been able to use QR codes and your phones and everything else. Isn't this just glorious? What we're going to do is we're going to go into the world of Mural. Now, for some of you, this will work, and others of you, your work computers will just say, no, this is not going to happen at all. So that's fine, because we can just use the chat to be able to do this. But what we'd like to do is just a little bit of a brainstorming session to say, okay, so innovation and risk management, what is changing or what is new? We've already got on our list of things to do this year a little bit of a consolidation of the sustainability space. But thank you, I can see we have a koala, a seahorse, a kitten and a duck, of course, because this is who we all are. If you can't get in, don't worry. As I mentioned, we can use the chat. We've got that open to one side of us at the moment. And so what I'd just like to encourage everyone to do is to start writing on Post-it notes. And the way that you do this, if you've never used Mural before, is over here on the left-hand side. You'll see where I'm clicking or just hovering over this thing called sticky notes. You can then choose the color that you want to be. And so I've just double clicked on a green sticky note. And I might just say here, okay, so sustainability, because I've picked a green one. Okay, so I think that that's an area in risk management that is changing very quickly at the moment. So if you're a visiting duck or a lion or a crab or whatever else, feel free to go and grab yourself a sticky note and start writing down what do you think are some of the areas that are changing or are new in the world of risk management at the moment, or where you see innovations being shared. If Mural isn't working for you, don't worry, stick these things into the chat. And also don't forget, if you want that Kozo paper, give me your email address and I'll ping it through to you. I've managed to get through half of you already, because we're multitasking like anything at the moment to get that Kozo paper through to you. So brilliant. Okay, we've got some regulatory change and expectations. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we can see it a bit more clearly. Who was the regulatory change and expectations person? Who was that?
It was me.
It was. What did you mean by that, Martin?
At the moment, certainly in financial services, the amount of change that's coming out, the pace of it, and the change in expectations, some parts of the business would call it overwhelming, and to the point that they almost feel like they're struggling to sort of keep their head above water. And it's causing us to think very carefully about, is our framework up to date? Does it support us in delivering these requirements? Does it support the business? Is it doing the right thing? Or actually, do we need to make changes? So, for example, TCFD is, rubbish, a piece of legislation called consumer duty, which is basically looking at how organisations treat their customers, and changing. It's a massive step in how financial services organisations behave and what they do. The regulator calls it a step change, and that has meant that we've had to go in, re-examine our risk framework, make changes to that, and look at things like our KRIs, our KPIs, our risk appetite statements, and lots of other changes around that.
Okay, excellent. So there's a kind of, how do we navigate some of those areas? Is that what you're asking for, Martin, or am I misunderstanding you?
So I think the amount of change is causing us to change our framework to make sure it's fit for purpose. We can remain agile and we can support the business to do what they need to do, and also remain compliant at the same time. Okay, excellent. So the regulations are forcing us to change our frameworks. Discuss. Yeah, something around that. Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. We have also got the introduction of AI in quantitative analysis of, e.g., basis of estimates. Whose was this? I think I saw a koala in there. Whose was this one?
I think Cal's the koala.
Yeah, on you, Elijah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of similar posted notes with regards to introduction of AI into SRAs, essentially talking about how to optimize quantitative analysis. I can't remember the name of the software, but there's some risk management software that essentially kind of incorporates all the historical data sets, like cost breakdowns for certain construction projects, and is able to produce a more accurate, more thorough basis of estimates, which will then can potentially go into your cost impact and potentially time impact estimates. So usually with the old way of risk management, when it's kind of like, you sit everyone in a room, you get a subject matter experts, and you say, okay, if this risk materializes, what will be the impact in terms of, your 3-point estimates? It's kind of having a more accurate, streamlined approach. So trying to, in the future, trying to incorporate that into risk management, especially when it comes to construction projects, because they've been done all the time, especially if it's quite similar projects, and try not to be left behind, basically.
Awesome.
Software is called N-Plan.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And they gave a talk at our Risk Revolution conference as well. So if you want to go back and check up, anybody who's interested in that, go to the link that is somewhere now up the top of the chat for the Risk Revolution conference, and you'll see that there's a talk that's given by the M-Plan team with regards to what they do, which is really cool. And I'm sure it has moved on a lot since September 2021 as well, which is brilliant. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Elijah. I think that sounds awesome. I'm loving some of these that are coming through. So that balancing sustainability and profitability. So that's awesome. Whose was this one? So how to balance future risks with current risks. Whose was that? Was that yours, Mark? Or he's just reaching, he's reaching for his laptop. He's gone, I don't know where the mute button is.
Yeah, you're using Zoom. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. That was yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's challenges in being able to balance the risks of today against the risks which are not present today but will be here in the future, and for which we need to start taking action today. Therefore, you need to be able to, you could say, make decisions and allocate resources to handle the future as well as the current. I think there's some challenges in there. Added to that, I think, is the challenge that the risk of the future has actually no data. And we need to think about the sort of how do you could say, assess risks of the future where you've got no real idea of the likelihood and consequences in the same way as you might have from things which you've got as historical evidence for. And I think that brings in some other challenges that needs to be risk management needs to evolve to handle.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, for me, Mark, and that's where I always kind of go, it's not about when the risk might happen, it's about when you need to take action and put the proactive controls in place. And so all of those diagrams where they have, oh, it's not going to happen for 30 years, we don't need to worry about that thing. Whereas actually it's about, so the time horizons is actually about controls and taking action rather than the risks. Am I on the same page as you?
I'd agree with you. It's when do you need to start, but also understanding that we might think something's 30 years away, but they seem to always come in only 3 years. So we need to sort of think that through the uncertainty, and the plausibility is the term that is used by Keith Smith. As you start to think about plausibility rather than likelihood, is it plausible? Could this happen? It's slightly different wording. So there's some interesting things that people are doing, but it's something I think we're going to have to do more in, and it's where perhaps innovation is required. Yeah,
I totally agree. Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. By the way, everyone, I am pulling what you're writing into the chat, and you can hopefully see that we're sticking it into the post-it notes up there on the screen as well, so that we're definitely making sure that they're being captured. Just to pull out some of the other themes that are beginning to materialize here. So this one, the pink one, so time is critical. People want QRA outputs at a faster pace than ever. Whose was that one?
So that was mine one.
On you go, Tim. Yeah.
So I don't think there's any patience in the delivery teams I work with. I don't know if it's typical, but I think it is a general thing across the industry that people don't appreciate that when you're doing full QRA outputs, it can be a week's work. It takes a lot of prep, it takes a lot of analysis and review from a cost or a schedule perspective, but people don't have the appetite for that anymore. I think it's not a lack of patience, it's just the pace of things. Has anybody else experienced that in the last couple of years?
Can I ask what industry?
Sorry, I work in construction in the UK.
Yeah, same applies for me as well.
Right, okay. So that,
yeah, people are expecting sort of instantaneous answers, aren't they? I think at the moment they're not saying, oh yeah, I'll let you go and crunch the data for a little while and then come back to me with an answer. They want it much faster. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
Yes, it is. And I don't know what the cause is. I think it's partly because we are now used to using quantitative analysis on a regular periodic basis. So you provide outputs from a schedule and cost perspective on a monthly basis almost now. So they expect you to be able to produce large assessments for a major stage gate or for a new financial proposal almost out of the blue. So that's something I'm finding quite uncomfortable, but also just changing the way I work. I have to be so much more flexible. So one week will be a standard week. 1 week I'll just end up working every hour and the weekends to get to that output.
Which is not good for your own personal well-being, is it?
Not as long as I have time off, that's fine.
Cool. Thank you for that, Tim. That's great. Samantha, I was just wondering if you're able to come off mute and just talk about that. You can see that I've been putting all of yours up into the board anyway, but your last one, your visualization of connectivity across risks, is almost more important than the specific risk assessment and specific detail. Would you be able to just extrapolate on that a little bit? And if you can't speak, don't worry, just write something into the chat and I shall channel your vibes. That's okay. Do you want to speak or would you prefer just to stick on chat? Sticking on chat is fine, because I think what you've said here is really interesting. We can come back to you if you like. That's fine. Okay, cool. So the quick visualization rather than the detail. Yeah, I find that an awful lot. People actually, they don't care if there are numbers behind it. They just want to see what's the big thing. And so it's really interesting in terms of how do you get people to start making decisions and taking actions in certain areas? What level of detail and data do they need behind it? And it's different, of course, depending on different industries, I think, as well. Vanessa, you've got your hand up. Off you go.
Yes, I was just going to say on that one, the visualization of connectivity across risks. And I think that's similar to what I'd sort of written around reporting on interrelatedness of risks. I think people are picking up the messages, you know, from the World Economic Forum report, for example, that, you know, risk managers are giving them about, you know, these risks are interrelated. You need to stop thinking of them as individual risks. But then that is coming into a request will show us how they're related, show us this connectivity, show us in a visualization, you know, give us a map of how they're all connected and what that looks like. I really like how the World Economic Forum report does that, although I have to say from looking around at free software options and investigating how you might do that with Excel, with sort of adapting sort of stakeholder relationship mapping and things and that exists free online for that. I haven't had very much luck in finding a good solution for visualizing that. So if anyone's got one, would love to see it. But yeah, that's definitely where I'm sort of seeing sort of requests for, you know, we don't want the detail, we want that visualization of how the risks are connected and what that means.
Have you tried Power BI?
Pasted that into the chat, yeah.
So on you go, David.
I was going to say, have you tried Power BI? It's free, it's Microsoft.
Yeah, it can't quite do the so what you can do is you can relatively easily create something that shows where there are connections between different risks, but getting it so that it's weighted so that you can sort of put in all your variables, so like different sizes for bigger risks, different length thicknesses for stronger relationships between the risks, and what it really seems to struggle with is being able to map them in a logical way, versus what it can do is it can put them all equidistant and sort of put lines between them all, but actually showing the relationships and sort of how they group and which ones are bigger and have more connections in a way that's visually easy to take in is where I've not been able to find anything that works well.
Vanessa, I've got two pieces of software which I've used in the past which have done what you're looking for there. The first is called Cytoscape. I've put a thing in the chat about Cytoscape. Now, bizarrely, this is used for biomedical research, so it's all about mapping genes and gene expressions. But actually, it's really quite simple to use. You just literally put in sources and targets and how they're related, and you can actually draw quite good visualizations. And it's a very powerful tool. It's open source. It's for the scientific community. So it's extremely powerful. Does take a little bit of getting used to using though. And the second one is more of a database, and this is called Neo4j. And the Neo4j database is extremely user friendly, but it does require you to build a new database. So again, there's shortcomings with these solutions, but they can give you some really good visualizations.
Amazing, thank you, Mark. I will definitely look into those.
Cool.
And the other shortcut.
Mark. Oh, sorry, David, on you go. You go.
Say the other shortcut I'd take is, well, if Power BI can't do it, just draw it in PowerPoint. You'll get there.
Yeah. Mark, on you go.
Yeah. There's another technique which I'm not an expert on, which is called FRAM, or Functional Resonance Something Management, and that you can interlink systems together. And you can give it, you can effectively put risks through it, but with effectively saying that if one risk hits another risk, does it dampen an effect or accelerate effect through systems? So you can link systems together to model the risks going through them all. And there are other people who are much better than I am at probably using it. I know it's been used in aerospace. I know it's been used in healthcare. It's probably been used in other environments as well. It's quite an analytical methodology to use, but it does look at in the effects of something happening in one, you could say in one system, and then affecting another system, and then another system and another system, dependent on the relationships between those systems, as in one might be an input to another, and another one may be a resource for another sort of thing. So it looks at the interrelations, and there may be time links as well, I think they can put in. So it may be worth exploring that as a tool in the innovation SIG to see where and even where it has relevance. And there are people who are much more expert on it than I am. But if that
so what was that called again, Mark?
Graham, I'm just trying to find the link. I was just trying to do the link when you talked to me on the thing. It's functional resonance.
Okay, fantastic. So what we could do there is, and just to, because I'm acutely aware of time and the fact that everybody will probably want to run away very shortly, is so we've already tentatively agreed that we're going to run some form of sustainability debate, and Martin was very kind and said that he would help out with that, so we can form a little working group on that. How about if we put together a session on the kind of the visualization of complexity, because there's a complexity SIG in their own right, but they're off it, they're doing fantastic work. But what we're talking about here is, okay, everybody's talking about it, but how on earth do I go and draw this thing for my organization? And yes, I can sit there in PowerPoint or Visio or whatever and try and draw it, but personally, I'm not that good at design. And so therefore, how do I do it? If we put together a little session where everybody chucks all these different options into the mix, would that be useful for people? And we just focus in on the visualization side. I think that might be quite cool. So we could do that. And then another theme that is beginning to emerge, and I think this comes back to the whole regulatory changes, etc. And then also somebody here in this, I don't know, is it khaki, is it brown, post-it note has, of course, pointed out the fact that there is a new corporate governance code that's coming through. Now, it's been delayed, but it's still going to be in. I mean, it's sort of 2024, really, when it's going to come in now. So putting together a session, if the IRM's not already doing a session with regards to what's happening in the UK, because of course this is a UK thing rather than a global thing, but actually that tends to have fairly large ramifications because a lot of people tend to latch on to the UK corporate governance codes. Putting together a session on that, if there's not already one that's running, would that be useful for people just so they know what's coming down the line? Yeah, because then we've got a sustainability thing, and kind of a more of a techie thing, and then more of a governance-y thing. Does that work? Rodrigo, I'm making all kinds of executive decisions here at the moment. Are you happy, or is this a disaster? He's smiling. This is where it goes really well when my co-chair's internet's rubbish.
Yeah, when my internet is not working, it's difficult. I think it's outstanding. We came from almost no agenda and too many agendas that might drive us for the next few years. So definitely, yeah, I think that we can explore each of these themes.
Fantastic. Excellent.
How long it will take is another question.
It's all good. It's all good. I reckon that between Martin and myself, we can pull off a decent sustainability thing pretty quickly. And Mark's already written the book, so that's easy. Mark Turner has just put up his hand to help with the complexity visualization. So there we go. Bonus. That one's done. And then towards the end of the year, we could maybe do the corporate governance one because things will be a bit more clearer. Is anybody here and a true expert when it comes to corporate governance? Because if not, I can go and ring some friends who profess to be a little bit closer to all of this than I am. If anybody wants to help out with that one, then let me know. And we can begin to put together a little working group on that. And as Andrea says, yeah, let's create disasters together because that keeps us all in a job, which is always good. Awesome. Okay, Rodrigo, is there anything else you want to add into the conversation just before we round up for tonight?
No, thank you very much for leading today, Sarah. Yeah, excellent. And thank you all for the inputs. It's outstanding. I think it can only happen with you. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rodrigo. Kathleen, do you have any words of wisdom before we call it a night?
No, I'm fine. I think it's been a fantastic session, and I think all of the ideas were really good. So appreciate it.
Perfect. Awesome. So with that, everybody, thank you very, very much for coming and playing with us this evening or this morning or whatever it might be for all of you around the world. Watch this space. Those 3 themes will be coming at you fairly shortly. So the sustainability, the visualization of complexity, and then something to do with the governance side of things. And thank you very, very much, Andrea, for sticking up your hand to say that you'd be happy to help on the governance side. That's fantastic. Also, if any of you want that COSO document, send me an email. I'll just stick my email into the chat again, and I'll be able to ping that through to you. Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your week and see you all soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.